we're live now, and this conversation was too good already for everybody, anybody who's watching right now. I don't know who, I can't see, but it was, we just got right into it because there's so much to get into. Can you go back to that?
The book you were talking about.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Well, so
Monday from Liberty Monks. If you haven't, I put your podcast out there, and
thanks, man.
These guys are very well researched. Is Mike coming on?
No, just me tonight. Mike's sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
These guys are very well researched. And this is where stereotypically or from a distance, we don't vote the same way, probably. We may not in some things, but we vote like people. We vote on what matters to us. We don't vote across tickets or party lines or whatever. I don't personally. And right now the vote's been tainted so bad it just doesn't even feel like it's worth anything. But what matters is the principle here, and what's being stolen from us, and that's our inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean,
right.
All of that's being nicked away at.
Or it's just being shoved into a system that you get programmed by, and you don't have any choice of which direction you really want to take it. Choices are being limited.
Well, you have a choice, but sometimes it's hard to see it. But because of what you're talking about, that book, the programming, how that all takes place and where we are now.
Yeah, and I think it's important, Mike and I have been, between the podcast and now the live show, we have a live show on freedomfirst.tv now as well. And between those two, platforms, we've interviewed close to 100 people, and, from doctors to scientists to lawyers to former, 3, 4, 5-star generals, people that, sheriffs, constitutional sheriffs. I mean, we can go down this list, and I say that because even though everybody has distinctly different things to talk about, the message is very clear that the position that we are in right now is that of we are in a absolute dogfight for the survival of our constitutional republic. And that is not something that I say lightly. The situation is a lot worse than people think. And that's why we started Liberty Monks. I mean, Mike and I aren't journalists. I mean, we're not media. We both have careers. I mean, that I have a financial company. Mike is the CEO of a big surgical center in Florida, and we have busy careers and families and things we want to do. But when we saw what happened in 2020, actually, I'll even back that up. It wasn't even the election. It was what happened with the COVID lockdowns. And I guess because of the training that I've had in my industry where, there's a lot of propaganda in the financial services industry. I mean, Vince, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. Yeah. There's a lot of things people are taught to do with their money that really defy not only logic, but economic principles. And so when you actually look through the lens like that, you can start to see perhaps where you might be being misled or lied to or given a half truth. Well, when COVID went down, it became very, very clear that the data was being manipulated, that people were being manipulated. The lockdowns happened, people were losing their jobs, but it's okay to keep Walmart and all these other places open because, they're necessary. Not whatever essential businesses, whatever they call them, was sort of a stupid word they came up with.
Did you see the study? I'll throw this in and I'll back out.
Yeah, what's up?
The insurance industry is why the lockdown happened the way it did. The numbers I can't find that study anymore. It's gone. I think
which study? Which one are you talking about?
It's I can't remember who did the study, but Joe Rogan that's who I got it from, and it was only live for maybe 2 weeks, and there were
life insurance policies weren't paying on COVID related deaths.
Well, no, the reason that the lockdown happened the way it did, so they ran all these simulations, and which Gates has been running them since 2013 or whatever. But this study in particular kept running them, and the effect of letting the insurance industry endure people just catching the virus was so devastating that it never would have rebounded. All the death, all the sickness, everything that was correlated with that. So what they did is they shut it down instead. The week after, because this is what I do. I deal with the insurance companies. The week after, these motherfuckers, I swear to God, everybody, my church, like we had to bail out of church at this point. We hadn't left yet, but we got the mandates from the addendums from the insurance company saying we don't cover anything COVID related. It gave them time to pull out of the COVID shit and then put those out there. And then it's like every 2 weeks we got a new addendum from the insurance company. And then at the end of it all, they'll a lot of time, I don't know how your medical is, but they will cover the diagnosis of any complications with the vaccine. They won't cover any ensuing illness.
Right.
So like there's all this shit that they did in this little amount of time right before the decision was made to actually lock it down. But in those simulations, if they would have let life be what life was, they took the hit. The big guys, the ones, the insurance industry has the third highest GDP behind US and Japan combined. Like it's massive. The power that they have is the illegal shit that I see when I go in those courtrooms is insane. And it was them. Like they so I'm not saying there's a big conspiracy there, but they didn't want to get hit. Right. So they stuck it to the little guy and everything played out accordingly. And if you look at the way money was, it was who got out of this unscathed, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider with that. And here's the other thing, COVID was positioned as something that was, somebody ate bat stew in a Wuhan market. It's nonsense. Quite frankly, there's enough evidence that has come out now. We've interviewed scientists and doctors, in particular, Dr. Tal Braun, who is U.S. counterterrorism and studies bioweapons. This was intentional. This was a bioweapon, a weaponized, toxic, bioweapon that was literally propagated on the world. And that's very, very, very easy now to uncover. And there's many, many theories about what it is. According to Dr. Braun, we interviewed him a couple times about this, and he's now partnered with Dr. Brian Ardis. And I don't know if you saw the documentary "Watch the Water" that Stu Peters helped Brian Ardis put together, but they talk about that a big part of the toxicity, not only in the "quote unquote" virus, but also in the shots, is snake venom. Now, there's some competing theories around that. There's some people that agree with it, some that don't. Dr. Ardis does have some compelling evidence, and Dr. Braun and he have kind of partnered up on this. But he said, make no mistake about this. The virus, quote unquote, is just one of the ways they deploy the toxic spike protein. And whether that protein is venom related or not, I don't know. I don't know enough about that to speak intelligently about it. But the point of it is that this was not some accidental thing. And when you start to get your arms around that, then you start to see what happened. And you start to then integrate that with what we're seeing out of the World Economic Forum. And I don't know how much you guys have looked into that, but the World Economic Forum is headed up by Klaus Schwab. One of his major advisors is Yuval Noah Harari. And if you listen to these people talk, this is the whole New World Order, which I know a lot of people look at that as a conspiracy theory. Listen, this is they've written books about this. There's a book called The Great Reset, written by Klaus Schwab out of the World Economic Forum. And there's even right now, they just did the G20. Why is he there? He's not an elected leader. Why is he involved in these things? Why did our own government, why did we get involved in Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as to say, why did they sponsor with Johns Hopkins Event 201, which happened in October of 2019, before COVID was ever talked about being a pandemic? They ran exercises. One was called Event 201. There was one before that called Cladex. Yeah. Why in the world did they use a coronavirus as an example? And they talked about all the things that we had to go endure, right? Locking down churches, locking down schools, locking down people in their homes, shutting down businesses. All of the things that we just experienced, they literally simulated in October. Well, so people have to get their arms around this. to say that this is a coincidence, there's too many coincidences here for this to all be, oh, well, this all just kind of happened and everyone needs to calm down because this is all coincidental. No, this is not coincidental. There's too much evidence out there, and now they're not even hiding it. Now they're just coming out. I mean, you could look at these things for yourself. And I know we'll go through a lot of this detail tonight. But Klaus Schwab even brags about this, that they've infiltrated the vast majority of governments, cabinets around the world, institutions around the world, specifically here in the United States as well, with their people.
The deepest pockets. That's they're the most susceptible.
I got a question for you. You think DARPA is more heading a lot of this up?
I think they could be a part of it. I don't know that the World Economic Forum is the actual, entity that is manufacturing all this. So they may be order takers. And I think it's very clear though that there's bad intent with all this. And I've definitely heard that DARPA could have a lot of influence here. And then we also have to look at just what different government agencies have been weaponized. The DOJ, right. The CIA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the IRS even. I mean, they've hired 87,000 new IRS agents. Really?
This has been
that's a good use of resources
I always
right now.
Joke around. I think the IRS agents are going after everyone who took a PPE loan and doesn't plan on paying it back.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting theory. Yeah,
that's not untrue. It's not there's a reason they're not going to give you on your EIDL. You don't get a statement. they say you just need to know when to pay, and that's it. Sorry about your luck. Portal's down. That's what they did. They took the portal down. Anybody who has an EIDL, you better know when you owe that first payment because they own your business.
But that's, people, the citizens, the population now, they look at that stuff as free money.
That's the programming.
And my father was like, whatever you do not take a loan out from Uncle Sam. That is the last person you ever want to take a loan out from. And, when those PPE loans were going out, I know some people needed them, but, I also know some people was taking out loans and getting a new gazebo in their backyard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. There's nothing is for free. There is always strings attached when you're talking about any type of money that's quote unquote given by the federal government, right? And that's that's the thing. And the thing is, and we talked in pre-show, we were talking about, hey, how do you connect the dots here, and what are we really dealing with? And I've had the privilege of talking to several former generals, General Thomas McInerney, General Paul Vallely, General Joseph Arbuckle, most of them pretty recently. And there's actually an open letter out there. They're trying to educate the general public about what's really happening here. And what they talk about is this communist-Marxist infiltration into our society. And here's the deal. Do we have foreign enemies? Yes. They talk about this in the open letter, and I would, Vince, I can get this to you if you guys want to plow it out there like we are, more than welcome to. They want this to reach as many people as possible. I'll give you some of the highlights here. There's been an infiltration part. For one, it's the education system was necessary to infiltrate. How do you mold and shape and groom the minds of young people? Because listen, they're not going to get us. We're not going to, guys like us who understand what's going on, who aren't going to comply. They know that there's going to be people like us that aren't going to comply. But what they can do is they can shape and mold the minds of young people to think like they do, right?
The population.
100%. So what do? You go after K through 12, you go after universities, you go after colleges, not all of them, but many and probably most, right? What do? You teach them that your skin color matters. You teach them CRT, the critical race theory. You teach them that, everyone owes an apology to each other because of race and things that have happened in the past, when even that's been skewed. A lot of our history has been lied to us about. One of the gentlemen we interviewed was John Hamer. He's a historian, and he's written books called The Falsification of Science and The Falsification of History. It's amazing when you read these books, what they've lied to us about.
I think there's a lot of, I think we need to be compassionate with each other, but I think when the government starts to grab something and force it, then there's something behind it. There's always
Yeah.
something behind
The
it.
motive.
It's never
Right.
it's never genuine, because we come in with genuine intentions as human beings who interact with each other, and then they find spin. What's their spin? And is that a conspiracy? No, I just think it's the natural flow of, okay, well, this behemoth of a government,
Yeah.
this is how they're in their minds survival, how we get humanity to, humans can justify anything, but like a lot of that stuff. See, this is where something like critical race theory, is it good to teach? Yeah, it's not good to force. You know what I mean? It's good to know what this country was founded on. It's good for people to know that. It's good to be sympathetic to you for being poor and me for being poor. You know what I mean? Like, it's good to be sympathetic to your fellow human, but when a government starts grabbing it, this is what Jordan Peterson did when they started, when they said, you have to say this, he said, no.
Right.
That you're not going to tell me how to speak. Anybody I'm interacting with individually, I'll shake their hand and I'll ask them, but you're not going to tell me how to speak.
You look at CRT more as a divisive tactic more than anything.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about in pre-show, we were talking about the lecture given by G. Edward Griffin in 1969. The only way that you can take down a country is if you divide it. So, race is only a big deal to the people in authority. Most people out there, listen, I played basketball in high school and college, and I don't know anybody, literally, I don't know anyone in my life that looks at race and goes, oh, that person's not as good as me because they're black or Hispanic or they're Asian or they're Native American. I don't know one person. Yet, what do they talk about, and what do they teach people with this stuff? They teach you to think that the color of your skin is something that defines you. It doesn't define anyone. In my humble opinion, it doesn't define anyone. We're all the same. God created all of us in his image. And for us to sit here and then go and tell kids at school, well, you should feel bad for Joey because of his skin color. It's like, wait a minute. Why would you want somebody to feel bad about being white or black or whoever? What is the point of teaching kids this when they should be looking at each other and going, no, we're all created equal in God's image. And again, that's bringing faith into this.
Terrence McKenna was always a big advocate of, like, lose your culture, like, just separate from, like, the fact of your identity, like people.
Well, we know that identity politics is stuff.
If you hold on and cling on to the skin tone and let it identify you,
we have to be real about what happened, though. There's a history there. It's like,
certainly,
if I've spent my entire life beating my dog, you know what I mean?
But
then one day
it feeds the ego and it feeds the narrative, and that narrative will always keep me separate.
That's where you got to be tactful. You can't. I don't know who's getting taught like that, the CRT, because I'm not in school, so I don't know what CRT.
Yeah,
it sounds good. Critical race theory. Why would you not want to think critically about race? Because there is
CRT is all about, like, you need to feel guilty because slavery existed.
Right. And there's been, and the thing is, there's been
black folks and stuff. You need to, feel guilty about it and feel bad about it. And it was all due to the lens that we was raised with.
Well,
but the thing is, it's very hard for guys like us who grew up in the city to, like, be force-fed CRT, because it just doesn't make no sense.
And here's the deal, guys. The division is on purpose, because if we were all united, if every race in this country put everything aside and we were united, they could never defeat us. But they know that if they fracture that, and this is what G. Edward Griffin talked about even back then, if they fracture that unity of us all being human, then this is what they do. They get you to argue amongst each other so that you don't see. So it's the right hand's over here doing something, and then what's the left hand doing? Well, that's all the things that they're doing behind the scenes that we don't get to see because we're so focused on the things that they tell us to worry about. So here's the deal: they're grooming children in schools. And again, not all of them. And I respect teachers, and I respect, that there's a lot of really, really amazing, brilliant people that teach children. The reality of it is the authority figures in these positions, and from the top down, you're seeing this grooming happen. There's an attack on parental rights. There's a massive attack. You can't even go to a school board meeting without being labeled as a domestic terrorist. When having the FBI come in, if you're trying to figure out, what are you teaching our kids? Why are you teaching them transgenderism? This is not meant for the schools. This is, you have parents that can teach their kids whatever they think is important. So you have an infiltration in the education system. You have an infiltration in the healthcare system. Dangerous and fatal protocols given down by not doctors and in people and nurses, but bureaucrats and executives that aren't physicians. That's why we saw a lot of the people die in hospitals. And I've had attorney Tom Renz on. I've had Dr. Lee Merida. I've had all these people on our show that have talked about this, that understand the protocols, how dangerous remdesivir is.
Is anyone talking about the human element, though? Because to me, that's what I'm interested in. I know what conglomerates, what government, what these monoliths do once they get a hold of something that they can use to divide. I get that 110%.
Yep.
They're playing on something that's already there. Look, trauma. I'm a master of trauma. You know what I mean? Like, by default. And when I read Bessel van der Kolk's book, Body Keeps Score, I knew it academically, immediately, viscerally, because I had to learn it to be able to get on the other side of it. So I know how that mechanism works. I know how detrimental it is, and I know how easy it is to trigger a person and put them into fight or flight so they can't think logically. Yeah. Instantly with a word, with a smell. You can do that. So I know that's possible, and I know they've been studying for years and years and years, and there's psychology behind it, and what they do is very contrived. It's I mean, you see it. You see in some of the pictures I was seeing in some of these last elections, I'm like, that looks like that fucking brown shirt or propaganda. You know what I mean? Similarities, minor similarities of splitting races. But now they're getting down to these well, the whole thing right now with the Jewish and Kanye and like everything's starting to manifest back up to the surface. People are pissed and they're playing on people being pissed, but I think it's important for us to keep the human element between us and recognize that we got to have compassion for one another. And if we 100%. Do that, then we can be united.
100%.
If we don't, people are so quick to stave off. We go into our defense mechanisms. We hear critical race theory or we hear white privilege, and fuck that. I had to work, you know what I mean? Because that's what we think. Right. But that's not what it means on that side. And if people would start asking each other, well, how do you feel? And then somebody, well, I'm always looking over my shoulder. I never feel like I'm at home. Yep. And I know how that feels, but it's not from the same thing, because the triggers are different. The mechanisms are the same. And if we can get to this conversation on, well, how do you feel about that, rather than saying what they say isn't true, then we can have the conversation amongst each other. They're going to keep fucking with us. You know what I mean?
And they're good at it. And they're good at it, man. And they use the media to do it. That's another element or another institution that's been weaponized, is the media. I mean, we're seeing it. We're seeing it in complicit reporting on things that aren't true. We're seeing, I mean, you can even research Operation Mockingbird. They're all the media. It doesn't matter if it's concerned. And this is the thing too. We talked about this a little bit in pre-show. This is not partisan. I know everybody's like fighting, conservatives are better and Republicans are better and liberals are better and Democrats are better. Listen, two wings of the same bird. They all cheat. They're all corrupt. And I'm not saying there's not good people that are there trying to do the right thing, but the system, the entity, the establishment is very corrupt. And the media is complicit in that. Then in all the information we get, whether you're looking at Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or whatever it is, they're all getting their information from the same sources. There's 9 media conglomerates that own just about every bit of information we get, about 95% of what we consume and see. So yeah, you look at that and you think, all right, well, how is this going to be objective reporting when there's things they can't talk about? One of the interviews we did, I'm trying to remember who it was, but at the end of the day, what they were talking about was, it was Steve Kirsch. And Steve Kirsch was on Fox News, and they were talking about the jab. They were talking about the shot. Yeah. And Steve Kirsch had this study that was done, and more or less what it showed was that the people that actually had the jab were the ones getting sick, and the ones that didn't have it weren't. And again, I'm not going to go super in depth into the study. I could, but the point of this was, what he said to Fox News was, this is the analysis and the data that I have. And what I think it was Brian Kilmeade, I think it was the one who was interviewing him. I think that's who it was. He said, well, hold on, we can't verify those numbers. And so you look at that and say, all right, well, what was he really saying? We can't verify those numbers, as in we haven't had time to do it, or we simply can't do it. So actually what he was doing is telling the truth. What are all the commercials when you turn on Fox News? What commercials do you see? Or any of these stations by Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson and Johnson. So they can't talk about it because they'd be breaching, whether breaching some contract or biting the hand that feeds them. And so we're not getting the true nature of what's happening through the mainstream media. It's like guys like you guys that are out there putting stuff out there about what you find and interviewing people that have some things to talk about. And again, does everyone tell the truth? No, but you can bet your ass that it's not happening in the mainstream media too, because they're not even the ones coming up with what they're saying not 95% of the time. It's coming down from a teleprompter. So who's behind the controls? Right.
The sound, they're all sound bites. And that's the thing is I don't have to agree with anybody. I want to know what they got to say though. Like that, it matters because for me, it's always going to be the human element. I don't care what they're doing. I care what they're doing. And we, the people, is something to we could actually do this thing. If there could be 33 million people of very different beliefs, because it doesn't matter. All I hear when I hear you talk about they're fucking me, that's what I get. That's all that matters to me. Like they're fucking me too. And I'll hear somebody else talk about how they're fucking them, and it's different than the way they're fucking you. We don't need to talk about how that's different. They're fucking you. You know what I mean? So let's get together. We'll talk about that after. Let's stop them from fucking us so we can have a nice conversation. You know what I mean? Like that's where we are. We're in crisis.
I think from that point is, we talked about stopping the, identifying with your race and all that other stuff. You have to stop identifying as your own political party, like the way you vote, like people like Republican, Democrat, they've built it into their identity.
It's identity
in a psychological kind of way. And I know that, we usually, a lot of us follow the way we were raised, but you have to unravel that programming to look beyond what I've been programmed to vote,
Well, there's a psychology to that, and that's why they want the likable person, the most likable, the person who's going to say the right buzzwords, because say Trump gets out there or Biden, there's a psychology. Now that person is representing the broken parts of you, right? And the broken parts of you that you've never revealed, that part of society, and you have to defend that because it's defending you. An attack on Trump or an attack on Biden, that's a fucking attack on you, because he represents parts of you that you have not dealt with yet. They know this psychologically. They know how we're split down the middle, right? And they know they can the people that are still right, left, they can play on their minds. But I see it all the time with good friends that I've known my entire life, and I'll see that glitch. I know what it is when the eyes go dark and you go offline. PTSD, I used to do it all the time, but when it happened. So I see it in a person. I can see it happen, and that's not by choice. They're not doing that by choice. It's something's triggered. And now, so what happens is this section of the brain, it's the Brodmann section. This goes offline. This is the part that's responsible for linear speech, right? It's gone. When they do the fMRIs, this is gone. You got the Broca section over here. I might be mixing the two up, but Broca section down here. Now this goes online, which is fucking weird because it's only responsible for taking in immediate imagery and processing it. So what's happening is the event, whatever the event is playing out in your head in real time, and you can't do anything about it. You don't know it. The people around you don't see it. So it's the brain is fascinating. And, they said they'd have the brain reverse engineered by 2029. They won't, but they don't have to, because they have enough in there to be able to, this neural link, I don't know we can't stop AI. We can't stop technology. It's doing what it's doing, but it's like, man, when we're already cyborgs, we're inextricably linked with technology now, unless we want to go live in a mountain somewhere.
And here's the thing, they want to take that further. If you go look at, they want to make transhumanism. I know, again, this sounds crazy. They literally want to turn people into AI merged with humans. Yuval Noah Harari says this. He says there's going to be two basically categories. There's going to be cyborgs and Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens are pretty much going to be a thing of the past at some point. I mean, people have to really recognize this. This is not good. It's not good that they're talking about the fact that humans are hackable animals. They actually has a formula for this. He talks about this is all online. People can go find. Look up Yuval Noah Harari. Look up what these people are doing. There's nothing good to humanity that's going to come from this. Because how do you, if humans are hackable and you can read their thoughts and you can read their dreams and all the things they say that they're going to be able to do,
they can.
There is no more freedom, folks. It's gone. This is not a future for humanity that's good for anyone except for the people that are in the elites that control the data. If you control the data, you can control everything, including people.
That's why the people have to unite. If they don't,
that's right.
It's going to be what it's going to be.
And the thing is, people need to
interact with each other and feed AI the best part.
You have to find something to unite on.
Right.
You have a country that's so divided right now.
It is.
You need a bridge of some sort that you meet. Where can we meet in the middle? Because
we the people.
I mean, everyone is entrenched in either blue or red. And then the other ones, they're entrenched in I don't give a fuck.
Well,
Vince, you said something.
They all feel that they've been alienated by this government. This two-party system. That's what we can all agree on.
Yeah.
This shit sucks.
And you said something really important a little bit ago. I don't remember if it was in pre-show or during the conversation, but you said our inalienable rights.
Yeah.
Our Constitution, we have allowed our governments around the world, we've allowed them to decide for us what our rights are. That is not how this works. Our rights were given to us by our Creator. And again, my humble opinion. And we could talk about that being, again, everyone has their own unique perspective, and I'm not here to judge or whatever. My personal opinion is God is the Father and the Creator, the God, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But again, everyone has their unique perspective on that, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, our rights come from that, not from another human being that decides what our rights are, and that's what we've allowed to have happen here. And again, now what you see happen, and that's why they were able to pull off COVID the way they were. That's why they're in that. That's why everything's under attack here. And I say everything. I'm talking about. We talked about the education system. We talked about we have rule of law that's under attack. Crime is out of control, and you're seeing it in the big cities. We talked about the parents at school board meetings and being looked at as criminals. We have a monetary system that is under attack. And it's designed to fail. Our national debt is out of control. This is not possible to maintain. And if you look back at the creation
Ponzi scheme,
well, it is. And if you look back, this all started in 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve. I don't know how many people know this, but the Federal Reserve is not a federal agency. It is a private corporation. And so think about that for a minute. Our government does not create money. Member banks create money for us to use.
They created
hold on,
though. It's not backed by anything.
They don't. The government's not responsible for creating it, though. The banks are responsible for creating it, and the Federal Reserve is responsible for creating the money that the government gets in reserves via debt. So here's the problem: we have a private agency, the Federal Reserve, that actually creates the money that the government gets. Not even money. It's hard. This is hard because that's not money technically. The government gets resources. The member banks create the money that we get to use, and the problem is the value of our currency has been depleted by 99% since 1913. 99%, and look at where inflation's at right now, folks. This is not sustainable, and this is not by accident. This system is designed to fail. And now what do you see? Well, so we squeeze. Right, you see cryptocurrencies being the answer. Well, here's the problem with that. We saw what happened over the weekend. Right, we saw the crypto company go bankrupt. The one that was FTX. Yep, laundering money through the Ukraine to give to Democratic candidates. So all this is insane, right? So you see the crypto market getting blown up, and all of a sudden now you have the fix has been in for a while here. You're now seeing banks like Wells Fargo and a few others, Citibank, that are starting to do a pilot program over the next 12 weeks to introduce a government cryptocurrency, which is not going to be government. It's still going to be, I think, done by the Federal Reserve, because this is with, I think the New York Federal Reserve is actually running this pilot program. This is all over the internet now. A cryptocurrency, a digital consumer-based currency is the end of freedom, folks. End of freedom. What gives us freedom is being able to have money tangible in your hands and being able to, no matter what, you can go buy and sell things. The minute we give that control away, the minute this becomes a digital currency, and now all of a sudden now, what can happen? Can they shut it off? You're damn straight they can shut it off. We saw that happen with the truckers in Canada. What if it's tied to a social credit score?
Well, this is
like
why
it is in
sovereign
China.
Identity is
Right.
important. Blockchain,
Right. So in China right now, they have a social credit system. Oh, if you're not behaving, they'll shut you down.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So there'd be zero privacy. There would be zero anonymity. There would be, what about cyber attacks? What about a Carrington event? I mean, nobody, or an EMP, nobody talks about this. We had Peter Pry on. He's, God rest his soul. He passed away recently. Great man, Dr. Peter Pry. He was involved in the entire nuclear program as it relates to the United States government. He was one of the main guys that, again, I don't have his exact title in front of me right now, but what he told us was that the biggest threat to us is an EMP or a Carrington event. But an EMP is just simply a electromagnetic pulse that you can set off over a nation or a part of the world via a nuclear bomb, but not one that we're thinking about where it blows up a city. The pulse from that will wipe out all of our electronic infrastructure. All of it done. I mean, we're talking Stone Age at that point. If all of our money's in crypto, what happens if there's some type of an event like that? So what makes money something important is the ability to carry it around, that medium of exchange. And I know dollars aren't necessarily, I know that we have a problem with the dollar because of how they manufacture it with these member banks creating so much of it in the M1 and M2 currency. But the problem is, if we don't have that ability to trade with each other, now all of a sudden we're back to a barter system if this thing happens. And it's such a demented thing to think about. And I understand the convenience of it. I get it. But if our physical money goes away, that is the end of freedom for humans. Gone. Because now, if you're not behaving, like I said before, they can just shut you off. And who is to say that I'm not behaving? Somebody in a bureaucratic position? This is a big problem. I mean, this is a huge issue.
We know what dystopia, we got an idea
100%.
what that might look
1984,
like.
Right.
So our own worst enemy, it's not them. We know what they're doing. There's no fuck. We kind of know. I don't need to know the details because it doesn't matter because I can't beat them on my own. They'll have to kill me, right? So like I'm good. I'm good because you're gonna fucking kill me before I ever succumb to some shit like that. I will die. I will die right where I stand today. That's me. That's me. So I'm not afraid of it. You bring it. I don't want to die, but at the same time, our biggest enemy is ourselves because we talk about the stuff, right? And then when we go talk outside of these circles, people will get engaged and excited about the conversation. Then they'll say, "Well, but that can't happen." The fuck are we talking about then? Like, I'm leaning towards possible action. Let's do something. And sovereign identity, I'm telling you, that's where crypto can be okay, and we control the flow. They don't control the flow anymore. The technology is amazing. There's a reason it's not there. It just white papered. It's free. Any government agency can grab it and run with it. They won't. Why? Because it gives you the individual control and sovereign identity. That's because we're not going to stop AI. It's here, and it's going to continue to. So we got to feed AI the best parts of us. And if we're feeding it fear-based, lack and limitation stuff, well, that it's gonna want to program out the humans because we're shitty and we're fucking up the programming, right? You know what I mean? It's just
they've literally come out and said that. They've literally come out and said that we're going to be irrelevant.
I got a question for you. Do you feel comfortable having these conversations outside in public?
That's a great point because here's the other thing that they've attacked. They've attacked free speech. So there's people that are afraid to speak up. There's people that are afraid to speak up in public about what we talk about behind closed doors.
There's a lot of
And if this continues, there won't be any free speech anymore. But we got to look at the root reason why they're afraid. They're afraid because of being canceled. They're afraid because maybe their friends or their family won't talk to them. And that's the thing. Vince is, we have to get over the fear. Yeah. We cannot be afraid anymore, because if fear takes over and we are afraid, and all of a sudden our voice is not heard anymore, what are we fighting for? I mean, they're literally they do not want us to have freedom in this country anymore. And I don't know about you, but I'm not letting that go.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was at the Boston Tea Party Museum with my son, and it wasn't planned. We were going up to Salem for Halloween, and Boston was a stop. And obviously that's, I want to go. Mm-hmm. And I'd been reading the Constitution for obvious reasons, and I'm like, yeah, we should do that. That sounds like a great place. You know what I mean? But so we go into this, and they have you act out the night that everybody, it's pretty cool thing. Yeah. And then the give me liberty or give me death. I've always been the kind of person who, like, if I say I believe in something, I'll die for it. Like, and I don't know why I think that way. It's just I'd rather live for it. That'd be nice. But at the same time, like, I'm dangerous to the powers that be, because I don't give a fuck. Like, I do give a fuck. I don't want to die, but you're not going to fucking dictate the course of my life. So I'll die before that happens, and it just takes a few of us to be able to stand in the face of, like, this is what I call militant love. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Martin Luther King did. He said, we're nonviolent. I'll stand in front of your bullets. You know what I mean? I'll let you, you know what I mean? There's a way to walk out there with force, and you don't have to exert power, because your presence is so large and you're not afraid. It's all fear-based. So they're bullies. And if they can intimidate you, they win. But when it comes to the point of scrapping, a lot of times they back off. You know what I mean?
And Sean, to your point, you asked me, are you reluctant? Or are you fearful of talking about this? No. And not at this point, no. I've heard enough at this point, and I've seen enough of the threat to where, if we the people do not get behind some of the people that have the authority to actually do something, i.e. the sheriffs, which law enforcement guys, politicians, in my opinion, no politician is going to solve any of this. Now, law enforcement, can they do something about people fraudulently voting? Can they do things about people that are breaking the law and maintain law and order? Yeah, but they're being attacked too. And the problem is, if we the people don't stand behind them, they're not going to go create political career suicide, and go out on a limb as a lone soldier here. They need the people to stand behind them. And there's so much fear out there, Sean. There's so much fear out there from people that and I know there's a lot of people that maybe they haven't looked into this as much as, and again, we have these conversations with people that know all this great information. So again, people a lot smarter than I am, I can tell you that. And we've learned a tremendous amount.
I think a lot of it, though, like, number one, you got to get people out of TV land. Yeah. That's a real big, that's the hook. That's what's got 100%. Them hooked, is that they're believing what's on TV. Now, the conversations we're having right now, I have with a select number of people outside, and I will have it with them, and I have no problem. Tell you the truth, I have it a lot more out when I'm in Colorado than I do here at Michigan.
I blast my shit in the most inappropriate places where nobody wants to fucking hear it, because I'm at least going to be heard, even if I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
but I mean, out in public, like out in public,
I don't give a fuck.
Because people aren't,
that's why I do it.
People aren't talking about any of this out in public, not with strangers. Everyone's, they're just seems like everything's walking around with a safety net. You don't want to say certain things to different people, because either, I'm not saying you're going to get judged, but it's, everyone's so quick. Oh, conspiracy theorists. Yep. We have this level now that we judge people by. Like, if you say this, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Not really. I just have been watching the amount of bullshit that's been going on for a long, long time, that I no longer trust anything that the government does. That does not consider, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Well,
I just recognize the bullshit.
And we have to look at where that root, we have to look at where that word came from, right? So conspiracy is when two people get together to create, to enact harm on someone or something. It's only theoretical if there's no evidence. So the CIA came up with that term. They came up with that term after the JFK assassination. And JFK was assassinated. And if you look back, he actually had a speech where he talks about secret societies, and he talk about how they operate in covert means to literally, change the fabric of America and the world. And he talked about how these societies needed to go. He also tried to change the monetary system. He created silver certificates, and that was where he signed an executive order where he was going to basically abolish the United States' relationship with the Federal Reserve and have silver-backed money that the government produced. And again, is it perfect? Well, I don't know if it's perfect or not. I think we, the people, could create our own bank and be in charge of putting people in charge of that bank to fund, and you wouldn't even need taxes at that point. That's a whole different conversation. But he was taken out, and according to sources, and again, according to people that we've talked to and people that have studied this, John Hamer being one, he's out of the UK and he's a historian and he is an author. And he wrote one of the books he wrote, in addition to Falsification of Science and Falsification of History, is JFK a very British coup? So according to him, Britain took out JFK, probably in cahoots with the United States government, because he was trying to, much like Trump, perhaps, again, I don't know if I trust any of these people in politics, including him, but he was trying to challenge the system. And he was taken out because of that. And now if and that's when the CIA came up with a conspiracy theorist. Oh, well, that's just a theory about a conspiracy to take out the president. Lee Harvey Oswald shot him. And it's very clear that he didn't, because if you look at this, there's been documentaries on that. There's no way that guy did it on his own. No. So that word, you know what they're really good at? They're really good at taking words, twisting the meaning of them, and then getting people to follow a narrative about what that word means and how that
semantics.
Might. Exactly. And so now what happens?
In the Roger Stone book.
Yep.
In the Roger Stone book, they have it where, pretty much it wasn't an assassination. It was it was an execution.
Yeah.
And everyone knew about it. You had the entire Republican Party in Dallas that day. You had all the Bush family, you had all the Reagans, you had the highest elites that supported the Republican Party watch JFK lose half of his head.
Yep.
And, they all knew it was coming, that Roger Stone book. And I don't know how, though I don't factual type stuff it is, but there was definitely a lot of evidence that JFK was not well received on the Republican side of things.
What matters is it happened. Like, that's the
right,
take away
right,
everything else.
Right.
That happened.
Yep.
Do we know why? Yeah. Well, that's where the military industrial complex was born.
Right.
That we're dealing with today. You see the same players that were with Nixon back then, the Bushes and everything. It's been this steady build. And then the Clintons came in and fucked them all up. Because in the Clintons, the Democrats were supposed to be the party of the people. The Clintons were shrewd politicians. They weren't going to get beat. So they started taking corporate money on the left side. And there went the people. The people are done now. Now there's two sets of corporations fighting for control every 4 years. That's what it is now. And it started, when they killed, that was the last American president that really stood up for the people, was John F. Kennedy. Nobody wants to get killed after that. So I believe.
Well, they tried to kill Reagan.
I think Trump had good intentions. I don't think he was the guy, for sure, not the guy, but I think his intent was good. And as soon as you get in there and you see, and you want to live a life, and you see, well, you're beholden to this, and this, or else, Obama, when he got in, let me get your BlackBerry. What the fuck are you talking about?
Or you see,
like, what the fuck is that?
You see how hard it is. Trump came in saying that he was going to drain the swamp. Now you see how hard it really is to drain the swamp. Like, that was a real great selling point to me. And I'm like, oh wow, man, like those are like, my ears perk up, when I was hearing that. But then you see someone get in there and get in the office, and it could have been just to get into office. I don't really know. any of that stuff, but like there wasn't much draining.
You can't. It goes back to this adage: you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. So Trump, admittedly, said, "I helped build the swamp. That's how I know. I paid them. I played both sides, so I know." Well, somebody with that consciousness, they're not going to be able to take it down because they're still stuck in that consciousness. So eventually they're going to play the game because that's what they do. They play the game. They played the game their entire lives. You got to be militant. You got to be willing to stand in front of a fucking bullet and let your life be gone if you're going to make a change in the system. And it's got to come from outside the system. Like Bernie was trying to disrupt it from within the system. I saw what he was doing. I saw the goal there was to disrupt the system. I think he has a good heart. I think it would have failed, and I think it would have went the wrong direction, like it always does. Whenever there's a fucking behemoth of a government, but it's gonna come from the people, or it's not. So we're either gonna come together and say, "Fuck all our differences." We don't even have to call it the enemy. We just have to say we're done buying your shit. We're not buying. You're selling us bullshit. We're done buying it. So we get to 33 million on that ticker. This is the whole gist of We the People.
Of We the People, sure.
We're draining. We're not draining. We're just not buying. We're keeping $56 billion a month, roughly. It's more than that now because of inflation. Thank you. But we're keeping that in our own little economy because, and we can show it on day one. We say we want an executive order that puts a cap on campaign spend. Today, you don't do it today. I mean, we're just going to stop tomorrow and check the numbers, right? Those numbers are immediate. And who does it hurt the worst? Not the federal government, because they're leeches anyway. It hurts the corporations that support those fuckers immediately. So in the end, while we're building 33 million on this ticker, we're setting up relationships with the mom and pop shop. We're stockpiling toilet paper. We're doing what we need to do when the day comes, we hit that 33 million. And if we get 33, we'll get 66 because everybody's like, fuck this shit. So we get to now we got power in numbers because why? We build the fucking economy, you fucking assholes. We pay you those jets, everything you're doing, all the shit you're doing while we're out there suffering, the fucking 1,000% profit on fucking vaccines. We bought that. Fuck you. You know what I mean? We're going to keep that now. I don't know what you'll govern somebody else. I don't know what the fuck it's going to come. I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope they can see on a ticker, if we can actually do this and get past our own differences and we can align. And we got 33 million strong of all different backgrounds just saying, we don't believe this shit. We think the problem's there. So we need you to listen to us now. And we're just going to use the Constitution because that seems to be pretty good. Yep. And I think you guys have tainted it. So here's logic. We're not out there marching. We're not out there bombing. You know what I mean? You're never going to be able to say that we're anarchists or whatever. We're not doing none of that shit. We're sitting right here telling you in plain view what the fuck we're going to do. And why this is democracy right here. This is the epitome of democracy. No, here's the majority that you say should be fighting each other. We're done. We're done. Right. We're done fighting our neighbors.
Yep.
Our communities are coming together now, and you're gonna listen. And
and I agree with you, man. I 100% agree with you. I mean, it's going to take, and I think it's going to take people understanding what they're up against, but also understanding what is being done to them. And I look around, you see what's happening in Brazil. So Brazilians did not have a very good life up until they had their last president. And all of a sudden they started to see what prosperity could look like. And they loved this man. This guy didn't win his election, quote unquote. So now somebody else comes in there who's, again, more of a communist type of Marxist type of mentality. And you can see I don't know if you guys have seen this, millions of people are revolting peacefully. I don't see any violence happening. They're just out in the streets and they're revolting because they're not accepting this, because they know that they elected the man that was there. They saw a glimpse of what freedom could look like, of what prosperity could look like. I think one of the issues that we have here, what's that?
We're seeing a glimpse of what the other side looks like.
Right.
We're real spoiled with our freedom. And we're seeing right now for the first time, ooh, shit, that's ugly.
Right. And I don't think it's
for my kids.
And this ripple effect hasn't hit us yet. I mean, 240 food processing plants in the last year have been either blown up, burned down, and or compromised in some way. 240. We have 12 days of diesel fuel left in the reserves.
Yeah.
there's a lot going on here that people, I don't think, understand the ripple effect and gravity, because it hasn't hit us yet. It's coming. And the thing is,
you got a railway strike starting probably in about another 15 days.
Right. If transportation of food and goods stops, people aren't prepared for that. And here's the problem. And we've talked about this with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, especially in the cities. If there isn't food and water, it's going to take about 72 hours before there's going to be mass chaos. No one's prepared for this, right? So we have to understand the gravity of the situation. And I think, Vince, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. We are very, 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 I think, apathetic in this country because we've had it so damn good. Yeah. We've had it so good. And I know people have their challenges. I mean, there's people that are homeless. There's people that barely get by. There's people that are impoverished. There's people that have it bad here. But by and large, people have it pretty good in comparison to what other people have to deal with in other countries. You know, here we get to say, what's that?
Go live in Honduras.
Well, right.
To get clean drinking water.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
I was for America. I was welfare, digging out of drop boxes for school clothes.
Yeah.
I was able to get out. You know what I mean?
Right. And look at you now. I mean, successful guy. I mean, you did that by just your perseverance.
Well, a lot of people didn't, but still there was the opportunity in this place. I was telling my son the other day, he's like, I don't need anybody. I'm like, don't say stupid shit. I said, because here's the thing.
Right.
Well, somebody fed you, right? You're alive. So there's that. So you had the compassion of the parents and then you speak really well, and you're very smart. You could probably go get a job right now if you wanted to leave this house at 14. Mm-hmm. You could probably fend for yourself. Somebody believed that it was worth pouring a bunch of money into an education for you. I'm like, so, and when we get you to school on time, you just took the school bus back from school, right? Somebody built those roads. Don't say you don't need anybody. We're interdependent here. We need everybody. So when we can accept the fact that we need everybody as much as we need us, maybe more than us sometimes, because we beat ourselves up worse than anything else. If we can understand that we're interdependent, we might not need you in the moment, and our egos get in the way and block us off from whatever, but we got to drop that ego shit, because the ego shit is what they play on. That's the programmable shit. That's so I can fear. The fear. I can program that shit.
Fear and narratives. Fear and narratives.
People do it in relationships with gaslighting and that kind of shit. Like you see
all the time.
It's fucking easy. So they're playing on something that's very primitive in us that we haven't evolved past, but we're starting to evolve past that and utilize other parts of our brain. And if they have it, whoever they is, if it's their way, this is what they're doing to kids right now. Do you know, every 2 minutes they're fed a dopamine hit. Our kids are addicts on screens to technology. They're
certainly are.
They don't even know. I talked to hey, Sophie, why are you talking like that? Like what? She genuinely doesn't know how shitty she just talked because she can't have her tablet in that moment. Her whole life crumbles. I know how that feels. I don't have the same trigger, right? Mine's PTSD going back to whatever, but I know how that feels. And to have a 11-year-old who's done nothing to hurt anybody, just trying to live her life and figure out this world, and it's confusing enough as it is, to feel like her life just got ripped out from under her because a tablet was taken away. And to know these motherfuckers programmed her, and it's still going on every fucking day. Like that's
and you hit the nail on the head, dude. The programming, the predictive programming is real. And again, we want one of the I always bring up and reference people that we've talked to, because again, I haven't gone through what a lot of these people have gone through, but we interviewed Dr. Juliet Engel. Dr. Juliet Engel, at the age of 6 years old, was sold. Her parents were intelligence overseas. She was sold. When I say sold, she was drugged at a park with a spiked Coca-Cola and woke up being raped with her father in the room. Her father made her watch him take money from the guy after he was done. And I know this is hard for people to hear. This happened to her. She was then subsequently mind controlled using MK Ultra, and she was human. She was trafficked, obviously, and became a sex slave. And she was given 4 different personalities. And she went through the details on how they did this to her. I mean, to the point where she still to this day cannot pick up a Bible and read it because she was mind warped so much that the words start to blur because they had her reading the other Bible, the Satanic Bible. So she escaped when she was 17 years old and dedicated her life to rescuing trafficking victims. She started an underground railroad, Angels Over Moscow, in Russia, and has saved with her cohorts 70,000 children. But what she went through, it's all from MK Ultra is not Mind Control Ultra, it's Mein Kampf. That is from Adolf Hitler, is a book that he wrote. And this is how he got the Jews to comply and the people that he wanted to kill and eradicate in Nazi Germany. So the same principles of how they would control and implement, mind control on people like Dr. Engel, Dr. Juliet Engel, the same principles still apply. Again, it's not the same method, but you're right, man. I mean, they are absolutely being programmed by these devices and by the entertainment. The entertainment industry is also infiltrated. And I know this is hard for people to hear. And it's not easy because it sounds so out there and off the wall. And I tell you what, 2.5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed half of this shit. But I don't know how else to say it other than the fact that I've talked to enough people that have actually experienced it.
Right.
And it's like, all right, well, what am I going to tell this? I mean, she lived through this and she's now telling her story. She's written books on it. And you can tell this woman's not trying to make money. She has a very hard time talking about this. But it happened to her and it happened to many, many other people. And
it's unfathomable.
There's a deep evil in this world. And again, this is why I come back to spirituality, because in God versus evil, because if this type of evil exists, there must be something equally as wonderful on the other side, and to balance this thing out. Well, and so that's why, again, I recommend people pick up the Holy Book, because let me tell you right now, if you read the book of Revelations, if you actually sit down and read the book of Revelations and you start to examine what's happening right now, it's eerily runs in parallel to many of the things you see in the book of Revelations. And whether or not people believe in that or not, it's not the point I'm trying to make. It's that there's a lot of truth in that book. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been manipulation to certain parts of it, because I think there probably has been. There's a lot of books that aren't in the Bible that probably should be. What's that?
Nag Hammadi. That's all the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, one of the Book of Enoch.
I've read
the Book of Enoch.
It's a beautiful. I mean, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of whatever happens should happen. But we need more people. So if I'm not scared, this is what I was telling my son. I don't need anybody. Yeah, you do. Right. But maybe you don't. Maybe you are that guy. Maybe you've got that gene and you're just one of those people that you're a brick and you can walk through anything and you're going to be okay. So now it's your responsibility to reach back. There's people that don't have that resolve. So now you have to teach people either how to have it or you got to stand in front of them. You know what I mean? And like, that's the only way we get out of this is and I teach my kids this. I don't care about your grades. Honestly, I care if you're lazy and that's reflected. That's going to be a problem, because lazy is a hindrance on society, on you. It's a mentality thing, and it's no good. It's a lower frequency existence, not happening. But I don't care if you get an A. Doesn't matter to me. Your academics at the end of the day, it's not going to make or break you. I care about how you care about yourself and then the people around you. So you have one responsibility, and that's illuminate the space you occupy while you have the miracle of life to occupy it. That's it. Be better than you were the day before. Help when you can. If you do that every fucking day, the shit that they're pulling on us, they can't pull, because now you can't penetrate. You can't penetrate that light. You can't. It's impossible. You want to know how I know? I mean, I'll have my slips, right? Especially when in relationships, close, intimate relationships, that's where I can have some of the fucking bullshit pulled out. It's nowhere near how it used to be. It doesn't control me anymore. It's not my go-to mechanism. And it only came from just standing in my truth. I want to be this way. I believe compassion is the way. I believe when we put up these safeguards, and we spend so much money on defense, and when we worry ourselves with fighting on the same level of consciousness that the lower frequency exists on, we're just playing their game. So who didn't play their game? Jesus Christ. Who didn't play their game? Martin Luther King. Who didn't play? You know what I mean? Like, you go back to the John F. Kennedy, kind of, I mean, that when he stopped playing the game, they assassinated him. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying he's either one of those, but he's your life your life at a certain point has to become not the primary, like just existing and taking in resource. Like, I don't want to just be here and take in resources from everybody else if I'm not doing something to try to better it for them. It doesn't fucking make sense to me. Like, what the fuck am I even here for? So,
Yeah.
and maybe that makes me different or weird, but there's I think we found something here that it really elicited. You don't have any responsibility in this. You don't have to do anything. Just put your name on there and say you're pissed. And then when it comes time, if we have to, if they want to pull our card, don't buy from those corporations. Dude, you go 6 months of your fucking life in sacrifice for the betterment of, because they can't exist without us. They can't fucking exist without us. The only way we hurt them, and we don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. I want them to listen. That's what I would love. Like, if they just listen, you keep your job. But there are term limits now, so fuck off. But you know what I mean? But we're not, this doesn't have to be confrontational. You're just not going to steal from us anymore, you motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And I don't know. There has to come a point where your life isn't the thing. Just taking in resources, because if I'm existing, I don't want to live anyway, right? If I'm living in captivity or whatever, go ahead and take me out. Like, whatever. I'm a runner. Like, if I'm in captivity, I'm the person who's going to try to have an uprising, and I'm going to get myself killed. That's how it happens every time in every life I've probably ever lived. I'm that guy who fucking tries and gets killed or gets away or whatever, but I ain't staying. So my big thing with this is, in 15 years, I'm not going to stand. Bread lines are real. People don't think they are in America, but when you travel abroad, you know, Jamie, you start to see other places and where they still are in terms of society, and how different it is in this bubble we live in over here, and how easy it is to slip back into that. Yep. And when the powers that be have the guns pointed on us, which we saw with the insurrection and the Black Lives Matter and all those things that they were feeding to us to pit us against each other and have us begging for protection on both sides, they asked for the guns. So now the guns are pointed at you. And when this shit collapses, which it's on the verge, if it hasn't already, and people are just trying to get out, when it does, everybody's going to be smart enough at that point, because you said it doesn't, until it's too late. That's when people finally recognize. Then they're going to look and say, oh, it was you. But now the guns are pointed at us. We don't win that war.
Nope.
We don't win it. I mean, it's just, then we got a chance to win a war, a virtual bloodless revolution. Maybe a few of us get killed, whatever. But if it happens, but I can't look her, I can't be on that breadline and look her in the eyes and say, or my son, and say, there's this idea and I didn't try it because, well, and everybody said it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that. Like, nothing worked until somebody did it. Like, everything was impossible until somebody did. Fucking Christopher Columbus. He might've been a dickhead. He sailed though. You know what I mean? He said, fuck it. I mean, if I'm going to die, I'm going to, but he went, you know what I mean? The people that go into space, like, there's people that have a bigger purpose. And I think that's what you're doing. You got a career. I got a career. I could just be enjoying life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Till I die, and leave enough for the kids to where maybe you can run into hiding, and when the shit hits the fan, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things I could do to justify not doing fucking shit.
Yep.
And it's easy to justify that. You know what I mean? It's easy to play possum. It is. And I don't fault anybody for doing it. That's not for me. And I don't think it's for you. And I don't think it's for Sean. I think we got some like minds that really need to unite people. And this is what I'm going to tell people after this today. Find the person you disagree with the most in your family that you still have a relationship with. Both of you sign up and get on that ticker. Both of you.
I got a question for you, Jamie. Back to the book of Revelations. Have you read the book of Enoch?
Yes.
I like that version a lot better. I hang out in a lot of different spiritual collectives, and what a lot of people believe is that the book of Revelations it's not the end of the world, but it's merely the end of the third dimension. Mm-hmm. That the third dimension is no longer going to exist. And then, if you read the book of Enoch, like a new kingdom comes in.
The third dimension's kingdoms, none of it exists, really. You know what I mean? We're all
Well, it
in
talks
the realm
about,
of phenomena.
well, you look at the world as it is, and in the book of Enoch, they don't use the word correction, but there's a lot of other sacred texts that do use the word, like God is, there's correction
Reboot?
coming.
He's gonna reboot this
Correction
fucking
correction
operating system.
coming, you know.
I'm with the reboot. Like I'm all about the reboot, and it's here's what people don't realize: it's painful. Like if you want to build muscles at the gym, you got to work out.
Well, you got to
take those
look at
muscles,
it.
you gotta feed
I
it
mean,
the
you
proper
got to see
nutrients.
you
can't
you
complain
got to
about it.
see the, if you look at the program that the government has been running, you have this materialistic, greed thirsty society that is addicted to consumerism. I mean, that's the truth.
And it's not their fault. It's really not. Like what we've been bombarded with.
No, it may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to find the correction to go back to the spirit.
Well, and here's where we got to have compassion, because sometimes we were blessed with enough trauma in our lives to be able to want to reevaluate our entire fucking being so that we didn't die or that we didn't hurt the ones we love. So that's a blessing. I feel like that you've been chosen to, oh, you gotta take off. We'll let you close it out.
Oh, no, keep going. I just wanted to let you know I have about 5 left. I didn't know if I just figured I'd send you a message.
All right. No, I'm just saying that, like, so I think it's important that we experience those things, that we navigate our way through them, just like working out at the gym. If you work out, you do it to tear your muscles. A lot of people don't know that. That's what you're doing. You're tearing your muscle fibers, and then you got to feed it the proper nutrients so that when you're resting, it grows. Right.
Yep.
So
no, for sure.
Same thing with your mind, I was telling Vinny, there's everything, you got to work it all out. And nothing happens without resistance. What happens without resistance, or when you're not working things out, is entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. You're going to deteriorate into chaos, just like if you're on bed rest, your fucking limbs start to, you know what I mean? Like that's what happens with your soul. That's what happens with your mind. If you don't exercise this shit every day, and what those screens do, and what they know, whoever they are, they know what the fuck they're putting out there, what they're feeding us, the type of music, the type, the beats,
the frequencies,
the hertz,
100%. Absolutely. Could not agree with you more on that.
This is all very easily accessible information for us, and they haven't been able to stop that yet, which is a beautiful thing. When does that stop? Well, I guess when we stop, when we throw in the towel. But I don't know.
No, man, I could not agree with you guys more on that point, that it's a lot of it's frequency. It 100% is. And there's a deep conversation there. Again, I'm not an expert in that area, but I've talked to enough folks that understand that world that that is a very real thing. And so no, I'm appreciative of the fact that you brought that up, because I could not agree with you more. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, I think just it's what's important. The takeaway that I get from all these conversations with people is just take action. You know, I mean, and I know it's easy to say, hard to do, but we have to put the constitutional republic back in the hands of we, the people, which is why I love what you guys are doing. I love what you're doing with we, the people. I think it's fantastic. That has to happen here.
All of us.
Yeah, it's everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you fall on. We're all in this together. At the end of the day, when tyranny is upon you, it's not that doesn't have any partisanship. We're all in the same boat. You know, I think George Carlin said it best. It's a small group and we're not in it.
Right.
You know, I mean, he was right, you know, but you know, that's the thing that we try to hammer home, you know. Again, we started this so that we could help to wake people up through providing as much information as we could, but most importantly, having them do their own research. I mean, even the things that I said tonight doesn't mean I'm right about all of it. I've studied enough of this to believe a lot of the things that I've been hearing, and I've looked into a lot of the things that a lot of the guests have come on and talked about. And it's very hard to refute when they bring a bunch of evidence to the table, and they have studies, and they have, you know, personal experience that they can outline and articulate. So the whole point of us even starting Liberty Monks was simply to provide a platform for people, for one, that they can come on and tell their story, but two, that people would go do their own research. And if you find a topic or you find something that you're passionate about, please take action, because we're all in this together. And if we don't preserve this republic, we are the only free society in this world. And that freedom, yeah, and that freedom is right now, they're trying to take it away. And I don't, whether you believe it or not, listen, guys, the evidence out there.
That ticket because you couldn't afford your insurance and now you're in jail.
That's right.
Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Sorry.
100%.
Simple.
So we just hope to, our whole thing is we just hope to inspire enough people to A, educate themselves about the reality that we're in, and B, take action in some way. And if that is uniting, if that's signing up for the people, if that's whatever it is, take action.
It's like these too.
Right. Right.
We're not going to agree on everything, but I can see where you're coming from. And now I can start to build from your perspective where you are. We don't ever have to agree on the end game. We just have to know that what the common thing we can agree. The two-party system has fucked us. It's fascism disguised by the illusion of choice. And I haven't had a choice ever. I've had their choice. I got to vote for one of them. Thank you, freedom. You know what I mean? But if we can agree on that, we can change this thing, and we can stop buying what they're selling us. But
do you mind if I tell people where to find us?
No.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Liberty Monks podcast. We have a website that's libertymonks.com. You can find all of our podcast episodes there. Awesome.
Your links there so they can.
Dude, awesome. There. I appreciate that. And then again, we're like I said, we're trying to reach as many people as we can with the folks we have on. And then also we do have a live show every Monday and Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. Tonight we'll be on live. And that's at freedomfirst.tv. So you can go on there, you can watch live shows for free. You can watch recorded, they record them too, and they put them on the website. You can watch those for up to a week, I think, without having to go through the subscription. If people are going to subscribe, if they like what they see there, if you use the code monks, you get a 25% discount on subscription. So, if people enjoy it and they want to, and they enjoy the network too. It's not just us. There's lots of shows on the network. There's a lot of different voices and people trying to communicate, to folks out there to try to get them to, again, inspire them to take action in some way with whatever that means to you. We're all, like I said, we're all in this together. And I really truly grateful that you had me on, and I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. It's been awesome.
Likewise.
Just one thing. This right here is why I wanted, to, because I know there's a lot of people that can't hear me anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we don't speak the same language sometimes, but we believe the same things, and they're going to have a better conversation with you because they're thinking along that wavelength of police and whatever. So please, why would I ever want to cut off information? Like, here, go talk to Jamie, go talk to, go listen to this, go listen to that, listen to shit. Like you said, do your research. Do your research, figure it out for yourself, and let's stop the tyranny. Let's stop the tyranny. Man. I appreciate it, man, and I want to do it.
Appreciate you too.
Let's.
Sean, great to meet you, brother. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, do we know when we're doing our?
You know what? Let's touch base. I'll be talking to Mike tonight a little bit here before the live show, and we'll get that lined up. Be great.
Okay,
sounds good.
All right.
All right, boys. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to have different perspective, and I know a lot of my friends that the people that'll be on this that are gonna relate more to what Jamie's big thing is, and I like that I can understand it. You know what I mean? Like that I can sit and listen, and it doesn't have just because there's a different perspective. What you got to know is that me and you come from similar backgrounds, so there's a lot in common, but even still, there's a lot of shit that's probably different. You know what I mean? Like we get so caught up in our own selves that we think the ego is the illusion that the five senses is all there is. That's the absolute truth. And where that ends is right here in the fingertips. You know what I mean? There's nothing else beyond that. So we close ourselves off, and the only way we open up is by having conversations with people who live differently. That I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy to see how people have very different means of achieving the same thing. You know, we all want the same thing, but but we have very different means of achieving it, and nobody should be judged for that. But yeah, human condition. Sign up. That's go to WTP.online. The ticker's not showing the value yet. We're working on that. We haven't launched it yet. But just go there, sign up. It doesn't email address, your name, and all it's saying is you think everybody should have a voice, and you're pissed. You're pissed. You want the government that you're paying to be in office to listen to you. So WTP.online. There's a ticker there. It's a preliminary ticker. Put your name there, and we'll add you to the list, and then you'll watch the value grow over the next month or so. When the ticker goes live, it's going to be pretty sweet, because we're going to see daily value. We're going to see, and the government's going to see exactly this is what we're worth to them. So if it's 33 million, we own $56 billion of this country's wealth every month.
There you go.
That's significant. But anyway, human condition.
Out.
We're out.